Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Ballhawk. I'm here joined by SW87 and Bailey Perry. You guys want to say hello?
Hello.
Hello.
So, today we are here to bring you the power rankings for the Indigo Plateau Division in our Quarantine Draft League. To give you guys a little bit of a background, we have two divisions this year for this season. One division has 14 teams. We'll be bringing you that power ranking slideshow later on. Today we're going over the Indigo Plateau with 12 teams, and with three of us, we went through and kind of took some notes down, jotted down where we thought the teams ranked head to head, and just ordered them from 1 through 12. And we're gonna jump into that, let you guys know what we think, and kind of highlight some of the things that we like, maybe don't like, and just give you our overall thoughts on the teams heading into the season. So let's jump into it. Starting off at number 1, or 12. We have the Florida Phalanx. I'm not sure what's the best way to pronounce Phalanx.
Yeah, I'll go with Phalanx.
So, I'll start off with this one. I was a little on edge with this team, kind of looking at it. The type weakness, just looking at the type chart with this team, it just looks like they kind of threw caution to the wind a little bit. It is just littered with a ton of same type weaknesses across the board. However, the other thing that I noticed when I looked at this team, it's just absolutely terrifying. Seeing Heatran, Hoopa Unbound, Dracovish, Grimmsnarl, Mimikyu. I mean, there's a lot of things that are just gigantic threats in their own right that they do solid alone, but and then you add sticky web support from Vikavolt too. There's a lot of things that this team can do, I think, but I feel like they missed the mark on just being able to. I mean, there's not many switch-ins that they have for anything, and they don't really have any wish support or anything like that. So it's the longevity of the team doesn't seem like it's there. It's going to be come in, click buttons, and hopefully they just kind of dismantle you right away. But that's kind of what I thought.
You want to go?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go ahead, Jeff. There's a few things that I'm not too fond of on this team. One being that there's nothing that really has any sort of reliable way to recover, so I feel like he's going to be very prone to just being one down. Obviously, Heatran would really like some wish support, things like Abomasnow would, and there's just no good way to keep his team healthy. And another big thing that I saw personally is that he doesn't really have a true bulky water type. He has Dracovish, but that really doesn't serve that role.
That's true.
So that may be an issue for him down the line. And the last thing is just there's not a ton of... Actually, there's only one Stealth Rock user, so that can be pretty predictable. Pretty much it for my thoughts.
Well, on the other hand, I don't want to say I love the team, but I do have it higher ranked than the others. Some of the things that I think this team has going for it is, of course, Webb's Dracovish. I mean, that alone is going to win him games. I do agree that he's lacking in bulk, but he does have a lot of cool stuff, like Hoopa Unbound behind Web. It running Adamant or Modest, depending on what you want to run that week. That thing can just take teams by itself. Having Synthesis really adds to its longevity. I agree that he doesn't have anything like the Wish support, but I think Glare, Leech Seed, Leftovers, Synthesis, Superior can actually provide a lot of speed control for stuff like the Dracovish, as well as just a good bulky mon, right? I think it works well synergistically with the Heatran, and same with the Mega Abomasnow. I wish it was regular Abomasnow, that way he could get away with running heavy-duty boots instead of having to hold the Mega Stone. But still, it's a very HO team. Even Mimikyu, maybe not so much bulky, but there's a lot of stuff he can do with it. You're guaranteed to live at least one hit, right? So that could open up the door for curse sets, things to just really dent at teams, maybe even bulk up with the sticky web support. I think Adamant +1 or a Swords Dance +2 Mimikyu can do a lot of damage to teams. I think the screens with Grimmsnarl could help, a little bit. He does have Screen Cleaner on Mr. Rhyme, I think that is. So hopefully he doesn't bring that and clean away his own screens, because I've done that. But Phalanx, same with Como. Once you get +1 on everything, that alone can do a lot of stuff. On paper, I think it's just a very offensive team. Oh, and I forgot he has Sunkern. Yeah. On paper, I think it's a very offensive team. I've never played Purple Cheese, I think. So I don't know, maybe, every coach has their own play styles. So I'd like to see him. I think it's going to be very in your face. I think by turn 15, 16, some of his games may be very decided at that point. So excited to watch for sure.
Definitely, yeah. The sticky web support for Hoop Unbound and everything like that, it's a good thing to point out. It's a team that looks like, one turn is all it takes for this thing to steamroll and just snowball on its opponents.
Yeah. Yep. Each of those mons, Vicious Rend, he has stuff like the Heat Train to kind of pressure out any kind of bulky grass, but heck, even bulky grass types, may at times may not want to take the Vicious Rend, so It'll be interesting.
Yeah, for sure. All right, we'll get into number 11 here. We've got the Ferocious Ferreseed. You guys want to open it up with this one? That's W.
Sure. All right, so that's Mega Altaria, and I guess on paper this draft is pretty good. He has Celesteela, he has Mega Altaria, he has Blissey, he has a Regenerator Tank, he has regular Hoopa, which is lacking in the speed department, but it's still just a pretty devastating wall breaker in its own right. The one thing that really stuck out to me is he doesn't have anything above the base 100 speeds here, and he doesn't have sticky web support. Victini being his fastest mon, is going to have to run Flame Charge or Dragon Dance on Mega Altaria. And even his bulky water like Suicune, yeah, he can't run Calm Mind, Leftovers, but I see this team just being very passive, and if you let maybe the Victini go down or you let the Hoopa go down, a lot of teams are going to have ways to deal with stuff like a Mega Altaria, I feel like. So there's not as much damage output as I'd like to see for a team.
Yeah, definitely. That was a big thing that stood out to me for this team. It's very bulky, and it's kind of. Again, to the same point as the last team, there aren't a whole lot of ways to keep things healthy on this team. Granted, you have Wish support with the Xatu, but I honestly haven't seen a Xatu use Wish in draft before, so it's kind of an awkward Wish passer to that extent. Definitely seems like, once, like you said, Victini or, one of the other more obvious offensive mons go down, it's definitely looking like this team would rely on just slowly wear you down, which it depends. Who knows how many weeks you're going to be able to do that to different opponents. Definitely not the last team, I don't think, that we covered. So it's definitely slow. It doesn't have great, Wish support for keeping things healthy. It's just not one of those things that really, it seems really predictable.
Yeah, very taunt weak.
Yeah. You got any thoughts on this one, Bailey?
Actually, I ranked this one higher than both of you guys for a couple reasons. One is just the fact that he has such good Steel Dragon Fairy cores and Fire Water Grass cores that I think it's just, those alone can win him games regardless of how passive they are, I believe. And he also has really good, he actually does have Blissey for Wish support, so that's a really good option as well.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
And with Sand Slash, of course, he has spikes, so he can set some hazards up and just force some pivots. He can just chip teams down and pretty much just out-survive them. I think he's definitely going to have a lot more longer games. This is kind of the polar opposite of the last team that we just talked about, where most of his games are going to be, I would say, upwards of, maybe 50 turns. That's just a rough estimate. But overall, I really do like his team. I do think that this speed is going to be something that later on down the line he's going to realize is an issue, just because I've had similar problems like that in the past. But yeah, it's just hard to argue against, Celesteela, Mega Altaria, and then Tangrowth and Suicune.
Yeah, sure. He's definitely going to outlast some of his opponents, that's for sure.
And then, of course, with Xatu there to prevent things like, taunts or toxic or other opponent's hazard stack. I think that if he plays this team right, it's going to be very difficult to deal with. But I would say that this is going to take a high level of play just to be able to make those predictions of when somebody's going to taunt, etc. like that. So I think it's all really going to just come down to how he uses the team.
For sure.
Yeah, all solid points.
Jumping into team number 10, we have Tempera Boys. You want to start off with this one, Bailey?
Yeah, overall, I'm not a huge fan of this team, just because I really do like the offensive threats that he has. He has Diancie and Kartana, which are both just insanely powerful in their own right. Diggersby can punch holes through teams. Salazzle is often really slept on, I think, for how offensive it can be. But I feel like the defensive side of this team is where it gets a little bit shaky, with his main 3 defensive mons being obviously Toxapex, Slowking, and Appleton. And, obviously, Slowking and Toxapex share a lot of weaknesses, so that's not always going to be ideal. And Appleton just kind of generally, it doesn't die to a lot of hits, but it also doesn't hit back very hard. And it gets walled out by most skill types, which almost everyone on I think has a skill type, I do believe. So overall, I think that the offense on this team is phenomenal, but I think the defensive side is where it lacks a little bit. I think the web support with Galvantula is actually really cool for both Diancie and Kartana. They both love web support, so that means you don't have to run like a Scarf on Kartana, things like that. Yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts.
Ballhawk, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I kind of share a lot of the same thoughts. Just kind of looking at it, I learned recently that Salazzle is something kind of like what you said, it's often slept on. I learned you can't do that. Just the toxic sub protect on Salazzle alone can really mess teams up. It's such a fast mon that, if you don't have anything that can knock it out right away, it can be a nuisance. I do agree that, the defensive side of this team is kind of its weakness. I don't know that he really has any wish passers on this team. The regenerator core between Slowking and Toxapex alone will help him out a lot. But it's just, I guess I ranked it the highest out of all of us, because I think it's got a lot of different ways that he could play this team. He's got a lot of offensive threats. It's just, if he's smart with it and you can kind of get a feel for how his opponents are going to play and maybe switch into the right thing at the right time, I think this thing could be really annoying to deal with, and it could be one of those things that just, you overlook it and you find yourself halfway through the game like, how did I lose this? Just Toxapex and Salazzle alone. And Mega Diancie cannot be slept on either. It's a very, very strong offensive threat. So, and having Ditto too is one of those things that just kind of, it could be a saving grace for this team too. I mean, his opponent could have something that's really bulky that's just, they don't have an answer for their own Pokemon, and Ditto can come in and just kind of save them in that regard. So I definitely think there's a lot of different things that you can do with this team. It's not the best, but it's not the worst.
Yeah. I just want to say that I am rooting for Temper Boys to win it all. He is my pick to win it all. I hope he does. I love this guy. He makes me so happy. Looking at his team, though, I think he's going to have a problem every week to where he's trying to decide, do I want Toxapex or do I want Slowking? So I feel like he could have done without one of those. Maybe a different Pokemon. I understand the regenerated core. But, leaving yourself open, your only ground type is Diggersby, but leaving both of your, walls open to one attack and knowing that you're going to hit one of his walls for super effective damage, that just would be something I would be wary of. I think, having Kartana is very nice. He's obviously going to win games because he has stuff like Kartana and Mega Diancie. But I would have liked to have seen maybe another bulky steel. Like, he does have an offensive steel, but I think a bulky steel would really work well with this team instead of one of those other bulky waters. And the reason for that is, what is his name? Appleton? I don't know. I just see it being kind of Ice Beam, Freeze Dry weak, which a lot of teams are because it's such good coverage. But his bulky steel, not wanting to take the ice type attack, even if it's freeze dry. Salazzle is just pretty frail as is. Ditto, only having that base 48 HP stat. Appleton with the 6 stat, it does help take away the 4 times resist. But Vespiquen and Diggersby don't really want to take an ice type attack either. Mega Diancie is pretty frail as well. So I think he's going to win a lot of games with Kartana. That's the best way to put that. I think he's going to win wall with Kartana.
Definitely.
A good freeze dry one will be a real problem for this
Definitely.
team.
Did
Yeah.
anybody draft Chiron? I don't know if they did.
Yeah, actually. Wow, we're sleeping.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll jump into the 9th ranked team next. And here we have the Impact Yankees, coached by Panda Quill. This team honestly kind of terrifies me. Going up against, he's got quite a few good combinations here. I mean, Tapu Fini, Hawlucha, proccing the Emergency with that thing. I mean, Hawlucha is one of those things that it just has to click Swords Dance once, and it can just commit genocide after that. It's very scary, very easy to steamroll and snowball teams with that. Having Tyranitar and Excadrill, that's a phenomenal combination. He's got really, I mean, his speed tiers aren't necessarily great in their own right, although he does have Alakazam with a base 120, so he's just got a lot of different ways to really control the speed. He's got a good bulky water in Lapras, which I honestly think is very underrated. Very bulky, water absorb. He's actually got 2 water absorbers in Lapras and Maractus, and I think that goes a long way when you have things like Raboot, Tyranitar, Volcarona, Excadrill, 4 things that are very weak to water. I think that gives him some nice things that you can switch in. Volcarona is very scary. Alakazam is a major threat. I love the Raboot pick. I think that's very fun. He can use Libero with that. The Cinderace pick, we did ban Libero for the season. However, Raboot can run it, so doesn't have near the coverage as Cinderace does not get Pyro Ball, but he does get Flare Blitz and some other good coverage moves that I think it's something that he could have a lot of fun with. And any team that has Zapdos, I think it's looking pretty good. Zapdos is a phenomenal mon as well. Not much for support. I think he's got, I don't know if he has a Wish Passer, to be honest with you, but he's got the Misty Terrain from Tapu Fini to kind of help support or protect things from being burned, like Tyranitar or Excadrill. Yeah, I think this is a very threatening team, and I think it wouldn't be too hard to see him go a long way into the playoffs with this.
For sure. I agree with you. It is a very threatening team. Very threatening, and he's obviously going to win games with stuff like Excadrill, Tyranitar, Sand, Alakazam, Hawlucha. The only thing I see with this team is, every week he's going to either run Zapdos or Hawlucha. I guess he could bring both, but if he brings both, like Volcarona's probably going to come to games as well. So there are 3 mons that are weak to rocks. And not just heavy-duty boots with Stealth Rocks weak to rocks, but a rock-type attack. Alakazam is relatively frail. Yeah, he can run Focus Sash, but at the same time, whenever you have a move that hits 3 of your Pokemon that are probably going to come, at least 2 of them every week, and then could also break the Sash or, bring it down to its Sash on Alakazam, Rock Blast, maybe even picking up the KO, that's pretty threatening. I know he does have the stuff like Excadrill and even the Tapu Fini to kind of help along that. But the Raboot, the Lapras, not really wanting to take those. Maractus, but again, how often is he going to bring the Lapras or the Maractus whenever he has stuff like the Tapu Fini there? And he's going to want to bring probably Sand, Drill, or at least one of his flying types. So there are already 4 out of his 5 mons. Volcarona. I think he's going to be bringing a lot of the first 7 picks. So in my opinion, I think that makes this team a little bit easier to prep for. Something else that really stood out to me is he has no Trick Room answers. If an opponent gets up Trick Room, Zapdos, even though you're not running much speed, it does have a base 100 speed tier.
Good point.
So that's something to keep in mind. Tyranitar, it does. Nobody drafted Conkeldurr. I tell everybody to draft Conkeldurr all the time. But, Conkeldurr kind of goes in against this team if it were under Trick Room. And I get Conkeldurr's a great Trick Room sleeper. But just an example, something like the Porygon 2 going for Trick Room into Teleport now this generation, getting something in low speed, that's going to do a lot to his team with just something like Stone Edge plus fighting type attack, or something for the Fini. But just like some of the other teams, he's going to win games. The guy's got Zapdos, he has Hawlucha, he has Volcarona, he has threats. So it'll be interesting. I don't know Panda, but again, this is another team that I'm excited to watch his game.
Sure.
Yeah, I think the real threatening part about this team is just how many different ways he has each week to set up and beat his opponent. You obviously have Halucha, which, of course, is a threat, as we talked about, Excadrill, Volcarona, even Nasty Plot, Alakazam. And I think that's going to be where it's going to really come down to how he uses this team, is because if you prep, for example, Excadrill, and then Alakazam comes and Nasty Plots, you can just lose just because you expected the wrong thing to come. I think just depending on how he can use that, if he can kind of play mind games with people on what sweeper he's going to want to bring each week, I think that's going to be huge for him. And the only thing I can really say that I wish that he had was a good wish support mon, just because, like you said, like T-Tar and Feeny are obviously really bulky, but they have no real recovery outside of like rest, I believe, and I don't even think Feeny can use that because of Misty Train. So,
right. Yeah, I had to rely on like Z Haze last generation.
Yeah, you got Z Haze, and I think it may get Life Dew for what it's worth now.
Oh.
But yeah, I think if you could slap a good Wish Pastor on this team somewhere, I think that it would just bump it up incredibly in terms of how threatening it is. But just now, it's already just incredibly threatening.
Yeah, and kind of piggyback on that. I guess, taunt is a thing too. I mean, he's got some fast taunters. I think Halucha gets taunt, Tyranitar gets taunt, not necessarily fast, but it's bulky. And I think Raboot gets taunt too.
He won't run taunt on Halucha. I know it gets it, but it's not quite as versatile as Tornadus Therian.
Right. It's one of those things that, it would definitely be situational if you're going up against a Trick Room team. But, I mean, I think Halucha could definitely afford to give up, a coverage move and just run its 2 staff types with Swords Dance and be just fine. And with that, I guess we'll jump to the next team. Coming in at number 8, we had the Arizona Arcanines, led by Just Dalton. Who wants to start with this one?
I'll take.
Oh, you go ahead.
All right. I mean, this is a team that, like, I would hate to have to prep for this. Not only do you have Dragapult, you also have Rapid Strike for Shifu. We did ban the Single Strike because that thing's broken. And I'm even in the opinion that this one's pretty broken. But to have something, the Rapid Strike or Shifu with the Dragapult, I feel like that's just going to apply so much pressure. Metagross is solid in itself. I do think he may be a little Shadow Ball weak, or Ghost weak with the 2 mons, but he also has nice stuff like Porygon 2, Alolan Persian, which can be pretty bulky. Silvally Normal is a thing, for sure. Being able to run Assault Vest, Leftovers, just adding to the bulk, as a bulky parting shot. So I feel like he did really well kind of complementing his weaknesses. The one thing, I don't know. I'm trying to think of one thing I would do to this team. Maybe the Glaceon. I'm very curious to see how much that comes, but I think he has a really good team. A lot of annoying stuff like the Mega Venusaur having Earth Power now. P2 with Teleport is annoying. So, I have it ranked number 2.
Yeah, he does have a lot of great kind of momentum gaining moves. I mean, he's got 2 parting shot users in Persian Alola and Silvally. Things like Dragapult gets U-turn. You talk about Teleport on Porygon 2, and being able to, in the right matchup, Porygon instead of Trick Room and Teleport out to something like, Mega Venusaur or Dehancey for that matter, and just let him go to town.
And all Dragapult needs is one opportunity to get in off a Teleport or a U-turn, and if you're in the right matchup, one Dragon Dance, that could be game.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, being able to bring the Pokemon like that in for free, the Urshifu and the Dragapult is very threatening. Things that could just kind of, win the game in one turn for you, essentially. Outside of having things like support for, like, Glaceon is his only Wish Passer, I believe, and like you said, I don't know how many times he's going to bring Glaceon, and relying on Glaceon to keep things alive. I mean, he's got Recover and Synthesis on things like Porygon and Venusaur, but, and rest on a couple of Pokemon, but I can't see him running Wish very often in this league, with this team. So it's going to come down to him pivoting around and getting into a good position, which with this team it's very easy to do. It looks like it'll be interesting to see how he plays. Hand it over to Bailey.
Yeah, I think this team has a lot of really nice pivoting. I think it's going to be a big part of how he plays with this team, just because you got Parting Shot on both Persian and Ally, Teleport on Porygon, U-Turn on Urshifu and Dragapult. The reason I rank this team a little bit lower is just because personally I'm actually using Dragapult in a different league right now, and I feel like it kind of lacks offensively more than people think. I think it's a lot worse in prep than it is in actual battles, and that kind of just leads me to feel like this team is going to struggle a little bit offensively, just because the Dragon Dance set, of course, is very, very dangerous, but just lack of coverage with that set is, pretty easy to counter. So I feel like that could be an issue, and Urshifu usually gets checked by most bulky waters.
Or just Rocky Helmet in general.
Yeah, or Rocky Helmet in general, and especially with things like Toxapex and Slowking and Slowbro all running around. There's just going to be plenty of things that can come in, chip it down, and then regenerate all of their health back. So I think offensively he may have some issues, but of course that can be supplemented with things like Specs, Dragapult, or Banded Metagross, or Urshifu. And especially, like you mentioned, if he can get set up with Dragapult, that can be huge as well.
And also, I want to point out too, with Silvally, having access to any type that you want and having a stab 120 move, that's very threatening. And the Swords Dance Flame Charge, that's this is one of those mons that could easily steamroll you. So I kind of agree with the Dragapult thing too. It can be a bit underwhelming in battle. But yeah, I think Dalton could definitely go in a number of directions offensively each and every week, depending on his matchup.
Dalton, don't listen to him. Dragapult is a threat. I don't know what these guys are saying, dude. I've been trying to bite my tongue, but Dragapult is a threat. I rest my case.
No, it for sure is a threat. I guess, don't get me wrong. It could easily. It's one of those things where there's very few situations where it's gonna come in and you can just click a button and erase something from the match, like a lot of other top offensive threats can. It's a great cleaner after things have some kind of chip, which, that might be the way he plays with this team, because honestly, he's got a really good option for setting up chip, if I could talk. And I just, I agree, it's a threat, but it's not something that's gonna win a match for him too many times. He's definitely gonna need some support for Drake Wolford coming and do his thing like that.
I do agree. I think using Dragapult as a cleaner, in my opinion, is the best way to use Dragapult, just due to its speed tier. If they don't have Trick Room up, a lot of the times you just need 50% on stuff. I do want to hope that you run protective pads on your Urshifu. I do think Band has its own place in the format, with the critical hits, but don't, do be aware of protective pads being able to prevent you from Rocky Helmet. I don't know if you played Gen 8 much outside. I know the reason I say that is because Dalton was one of the guys that played with me in my first league, and he just recently rejoined the 5th league, so...
Man, you gave him the cheat code. You gave him the cheat code with protective pads. Now,
yeah.
Now he doesn't care about Rocky Helmet.
I know, man. You gotta let him shine. Everybody gets one shot,
For sure. All right, we'll jump into the number 17, and here we had the London Lickilickies. Looking at this team, first off the bat, it doesn't scare me too much. Although, you got things like Aegislash, Mega Gardevoir, and Hydreigon. It's probably one of the strongest, if not strongest, Dragon Steel Fairy cores in the draft. However, he doesn't have a full Fire or Water Grass core. And it's just, I kind of rank them in the middle of the pack because, like you say, for a lot of teams, they're gonna win games. Having Aegislash and Hydreigon, you kind of bought yourself some wins with those two picks. Aegislash can easily deal with, half the opponent's team in any given week. Hydreigon can come in and just click buttons and get kills. And having Snorlax too. I think he's got he's got middle of the pack speed tiers, but he's got it where it counts. Snorlax doesn't necessarily need to outspeed anything in Trick Room. He can set up curses and rest and sleep talk, and doesn't even have to run sleep talk. He could have 2 moves plus curse rest and be a gigantic threat to any team. I think it's one of those teams where he's got a lot of good balance. Even though he doesn't have that Fire Water Grass core, he's got great support with Mesprit, Roserade, and Mega Gardevoir. He's got good hazard support too. He's got Toxic Spikes and Tentacruel and a Grounded Poison type can come in and erase those when they're on his side of the field. He's got 2 of those actually. Multiple Toxic Spike setters. I just think this is one of those teams that, he's very versatile. He's got a lot of options, a lot of threats. He may be one of those teams that brings, if it were me, probably I'd be bringing Hydreigon, Aegislash, and Mega Gardevoir each and every week, and then the rest are kind of, pick and choose. So he may be a little predictable in that regard. But again, with those 3, I think being predictable is just fine when you have Pokemon that are that strong.
For sure.
And I'll hand it off to you guys.
Bailey, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I actually rank this team pretty high, and mostly just due to, like what you already mentioned, that Steel Dragon Fairy core is just very intimidating. They all hit very hard in their own right. They can all set up on you in different ways, and they just cover each other's weaknesses so well. And plus with things like Spikes and Toxic Spikes from Roserade, and just Toxic Spikes from Tentacruel, those 3 mons up there force switches pretty much. So if you can get good hazards set up, you're just going to whittle them down. And obviously Curse Snorlax is just a huge threat. I can't tell you how many times I've seen people just lose just because they had no way to answer that. So that's something that his opponents are going to have to really focus on every week. So that can force prep and then potentially open up holes for the big 3 up there on top. One thing that is a little concerning is that I believe he only has 1 Stealth Rock user in Mesprit. So that really kind of forces Mesprit to come a lot of weak, which may not be ideal. But I think that overall he has just a really solid team, despite it being a little bit slower. And I also like the addition of Quagsire, just because with his team being slower, it is kind of prone to getting set up on with something like Dragon Dance or anything that can boost its speed. So I feel like Quagsire is a really good mon to just throw on there to kind of make sure that those things don't just steamroll you. But yeah, I think he's got a really solid team. But that speed control may be something that becomes an issue for him. So that may be something he wanted to address with like a Sticky Web user, something like that. But yeah, overall, I actually really enjoy this team.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I think again, I don't know Mars. I don't think I've played against him or anything like that. But I think this is a very high caliber team. I think in the right hands, this could be very deadly. I think if he could utilize, I think he would find a lot of success if he found himself running something like Scarf Machamp a few times. Getting off those fast no guard dynamic punches. Not necessarily relying on confusions, but just really overwhelming your opponent. Taking advantage of something like, Banded Aegislash or the Subtoxic set, even Specs some weeks, a Dragon Dance, Hydreigon. I think there's a lot of options for him, and I would love to see him. I think he's going to have a lot of success if he plays this correctly. A lot of threats. The only thing I'd like to the only thing I could see, I guess, to benefit the team is maybe a switch from Tentacruel. It does offer you rapid spin support, but realistically, your team isn't that weak to rocks. You already have a grounded poison type in Roserade. Was that his only form of hazard control? Let's see, does Hydreigon get defog?
It does, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay. But maybe just a different support mon. I think that because you're kind of doubled up on the types with Roserade and Tentacruel. Yes, you do have stuff like Hydreigon and Gardevoir and whatchamajig, Aegislash, who can take the psychic type attacks. But more just from a team utility point, I feel like that slot could be used a little bit differently. I do like the Trick Room aspect that he has with that Curse Lax that you guys brought up with both Mega Gardevoir and Mesprit. that may not be the thing to do every week, but that can guarantee win you at least one game, if you bring it. I like having Unaware on Quagsire. I think that really is a good utility mon for this because, again, he is somewhat lacking in the speed tiers, but he does have the Wish with Mega Guard. Wish into Subtoxic Aegis Slash just sounds terrible. So, a lot of fun mons. Again, depending on his level of skill, I think this team has a lot of potential. And even though I rated it, 7, a lot of these teams, it's just personal preference, and basically from 7 to like pick 2 or pick 3, they're so interchangeable. So I could easily see this being 3, 4, much higher on the list for sure.
Definitely. Jumping to the next one here coming in at third to Bailey. Did you get to talk to that last one?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. At 6 we have Moon T, coach of the Backstreet Scraggies. It's a to point out the obvious, it's a classic rain team. And I think it's the only really weather-based team that really hard committed to it. We had Sand, Tyranitar, Excadrill up earlier, but no Sun teams. And I think he pulled off the draft really well with us. Mega Swampert, Tapu Bulu, that's an awesome combination. 2 very threatening heavy hitters on the offensive, on the physical side. Swampert getting high horsepower is a major buff for him, and really makes him a fantastic partner for Tapu Bulu. Not having to worry about having to use Earthquake in a grassy terrain. I think Ferrothorn, the rain really helps a lot of its counters to things that would come in and switch on things that would normally take out his water or his Swift Sim users. Ferrothorn and Magnezone fit excellent in this team. The rain really helps him out being able to kind of dampen the strength of the fire type moves. Gritter, I think, was a great pick late in the draft. Good low tier or low cost mon. It can be a problem for it's Conkeldurr Light. It's actually a lot more versatile than people realize. One of the additions to the Conkeldurr family is they've been defog this generation, so he's got fantastic hazard control. Ferrothorn has a lot of, he can set up spikes, stealth rocks, and that's kind of the only hazards that the team really needs. I don't think he has any toxic spike setters, but again, that's fine. Being able to just come in with Pelipper, set up Rain, U-turn out, and bring in something like Ferrothorn or Tapu Bulu or Kingdra, Mega Swampert, or anything. He's just got a lot of offensive threats that love the rain, and I think it's a fantastic draft. And I'll hand it over to Bailey.
I like the team a lot, just in terms of synergy and things like that. I'm a little biased just because I don't think just in draft in general, I feel like Rain historically kind of underperforms. On paper, it looks extremely scary, but I don't know. Maybe it's just in my experience, but I've never seen Rain teams be able to pull it off. But I do like a lot of additions on this team that you don't usually see. I really like the pick of Salamence. I think Specs Hurricanes are going to be really, really hard to switch into. And as you mentioned with Swampert getting high horsepower now, that makes the Bulu pick a little bit more understandable. So that's really nice to have as well. And that also pairs really well with Magnezone. Obviously, a weaken those Earthquakes. Overall, I think it's a really solid team. It's going to be interesting to see, hopefully, a Rain team perform really well. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say.
I just hate him for picking Rain. Why would you do that? Don't you want people to have fun? Don't you want to enjoy yourself? What a pecker, dude.
There's always one Rain team.
Yeah, why? But it's a good team. It is a good team. Yeah, it's standard Rain. Yeah, there's going to be a little bit of deviation. Nobody's going to have the same exact Rain, but it's just going to be a pain.
It's one of those things that has it's correct. It's got fantastic synergy.
Yeah, I agree. Now, one thing I have to say though is, though it is Rain and though it's annoying, I've never seen a Rain team go undefeated. And I'm not trying to talk or bash anything, but what I mean by that is it's so straightforward in its playstyle. some coaches are going to be able to counter that. Some coaches, and not even just outskill you, but in team matchups, there may be times whenever they have, weather changing mons, they can do it manually. And then Fairthorn, outside of rain, a fire type attack is going to be doing quite a bit to it. And same with Magnezone. And there are other terrain users. So Earthquake, being able to hit those mons for solid damage. It's just, Specs Hurricane is something that's going to be deadly. But do you really want to run Specs over heavy duty boots whenever somebody could have something like, I don't even know, an AV mon in the back that could guaranteed live that, and then they pressure it out with something, I've never seen a rain team go undefeated, but I've also never seen a rain team finish under 500. So it's rain, it's good, it's solid, and don't draft it next time. Think of everybody, come on.
All right, we'll jump into the next one. I think now we're getting to the top of the draft where a lot of teams they're really close in terms of what they can do, the skill level or the quality of the teams, and there's a lot of we're splitting hairs towards the top here. There's a few there's a little bit of bias, but I think ultimately we all kind of agree on the top teams that were drafted in this season. Jumping to number 5, hey. I think aside from myself, we all kind of agreed where I landed in this league. I guess I'll let Seth start us out with this one.
Well, okay. I like to make a low bunny pick. Having one mon above base 100 C tier, and more importantly, above the base 108s. The Keldeos, the Terrakion, stuff like that. That covers a lot of stuff. So it's really nice to see, a mon like that. Mew, it's so versatile. Just simple Thunderwave, Rocky Helmet, Hex, or, Will-O-Wisp, Bruce, Calm Mind, Store Power, a Weakness Policy set. There's so much that mon can do. It's so deadly. What is it? Gliscor, obviously an annoying mon. I think if you use that offensively at times, and you're able to maybe set up screens with Duraludon and go for a Sword Stance, Facade, something like that, or even a Rock Polish. I found a lot of success in agility and Rock Polish because you may not need it to break the way you need a Sword Stance set, but that could be your late game cleaner. And then being able to use High Jump Kick or something like that on Mega Lopunny running Adamant Nature because you're not worried about getting that few extra through Jolly. I think that's going to open up a lot of doors. Rotom-Mow, great mon. Another access to screens, and Florges. People sleep on that mon, but Calm Mind Florges I saw just win a championship for a guy. So, I think it's a very, very good team. I like you having multiple Stealth Rock users in Gliscor, Duraludon, and Pillow-Swine, basically allowing you to run an offensive Gliscor 1 week, or, not making you run Stealth Rock, and Mew. Not making you run Stealth Rocks on Mew either every week. I think you're going to have a lot of success, and for sure excited to see how it goes.
I'll comment last.
Okay. I like the pivoting. That's probably my favorite part. I think pivoting is just phenomenal to have, and I believe you have 6 different things that have some form of pivoting, whether it's U-turn or teleport with Slowbro. And overall, it's just really it checks all the boxes. You have multiple Stealth Rockers, multiple removers, good cleaners, good things that can set up. It's pretty much,
Frog of the Year.
Yeah, you've got Frog of the Year, which is just neat. I love seeing that thing get drafted. And I'm really excited to see how you do with Slowbro, just because I haven't seen much of it so far. So I think it could be really cool. And overall it's just really solid. There's this team has no glaring weaknesses, basically.
Yeah, for sure.
That's kind of one of the things I like the most about it. I think so. I had one of the higher picks in the draft. I think it was 3rd, and I really wanted to use Mew, and just for it, like you said, its versatility and everything that you can do. I love my hazard game with this team. I think there's 5 different hazard setters I have. I got access to everything except for sticky webs, which I got things like Mega Lopunny, or Rock Polish, or Agility on things like Gliscor, or even running a Scarf Frogadier. Frogadier isn't the most threatening mon, but just having Protean and Surf, Hydro Pump, Ice Beam, U-turn, I think Bravado, right? And I think I'll bring that quite a bit, honestly. It was really just one of those things where I put together a lot of things that just I never really had a plan coming into this. It just kind of pivoted off from each pick. I love the fact that I have Duraludon and Slowbro Galar, two things that I have never used. I've used Duraludon quite a bit in PGC type leagues, but I've never even used it on ladder for OU or UU or anything like that in singles. So I'm pretty excited to use that. Same thing with Florges. Just those three in general, I'm excited to use and see what they can do. Slowbro Galar, I think, is going to be fun. I'm excited to see just how many times, when I bring Quick Draw, just how many times I proc that and just catch somebody off guard. And, I think there's a lot of ways that I can.
Hex is a win con. I will give you.
It is, It's you don't count on it, but you'll take it.
I know what you mean, man.
So, but yeah, it's not necessarily the way I drew it up, but overall I'm excited with how the way this team turned out, and I'm excited to see what I can do with it. Jumping into number 4, we have Snom Deadass and the Seattle Pidgeots. And I gotta say, he's got a pretty solid draft. I think Bailey and we kind of agreed where he landed. Seth put him all the way up at number 1. He's got some kind of a hard on for Tornadus up there. And for good reason. I think you're doing really well with Tornadus right now in the current season. And honestly, he's got a lot of different things that he can do that are kind of sneaky, like you don't necessarily see right away when you look at the team. Like, Rillaboom, getting the I Love Armor did amazing things to Rillaboom. It was good in its own right,
It's like getting steroids for it, too.
Exactly. It's kind of like what Incineroar was Gen 7.
Yeah, that's a good way to put that. Before it got Intimidate.
Exactly. It's just one of those things that it was good before, but now it's on a whole nother level. Getting Grassy Glide and having grassy terrain to boost it, on its own. Doesn't have to worry about anybody else setting it up for him. He's just a very threatening wall breaker. And having, there are sets now where you can pull the Grassy Seed himself and run acrobatics. It's one of those things where it has U-turn. There's a lot to love with those first two picks, Rillaboom and Tornadus Therian. Tornadus Therian, there's really just not much to say about it. It is what it is. It does what it does very well. Getting Nasty Plot this generation did great things for it. Having Regener. Yeah, definitely heavy-duty boots, too. I love the Drifloon pick. Having some type of unburdened partner with Rillaboom is a lot. It's really nice to see. Double, don't sleep on it. If you don't have a counter to it, it can just steamroll you. Being able to come in and set up a Cotton Spore and body press. Sharpedo getting access to Flip Turn, and Sharpedo and Vaporeon both having Flip Turn. He's got quite a bit of momentum on this team. Just having Vaporeon, Sharpedo, Rillaboom, Tornadus, and he's got, dual screens with Klefki, Prankster. Setting up Toxic and Thunder Waves Prankster, that's annoying. And that'll allow things for like Nidoking to just come in and not have to worry about being having to live a hit in order to deal massive damage. If you get a Thunder Wave off, and Nidoking is one of those things that just come in and win games. Having fantastic Sheer Force Life Orb coverage with Ice Beam, Flamethrower, Thunderbolt, Sludge Wave, Earth Power. It's a massive threat. And Mega Aggron is, very underrated for a Mega, just being so tanky. I'd rank them near the middle of the pack, but I'm kind of regretting that right now. I really like this draft.
I feel the same way.
So, Bailey, you want to take your next?
Yeah. Yeah, I really like the Mega Aggron pick. I think Mega Aggron is super cool. Torn Key, the fact that you got that in the second round, that kind of blows my mind, honestly.
Yeah, for sure.
That's just phenomenal. Like, a team with Tornadus Therian is just good. Like, almost automatically, it's hard to make a team like that bad. But just really solid bulk all around. Drifloon is like sneaky bulky. Vaporeon and Aggron are both going to be really hard to break. And then you just have those really hard hitters like, like a Banded Rillaboom or Nidoking. And then you just have really good cleaning options as well, like Rillaboom can just clean up games. Sharpedo can clean up games pretty easily. And I just think this team's really nice. Honestly, no, there's not much I would change about it. Maybe get a better fire type. I'm not too keen on Turtonator, but that's just more personal preference than anything.
Right.
That's pretty much it for me.
All right. So I had this team ranked number 1. Just like same with the rain team, dude. Like why would you draft grassy terrain with Mega Aggron? I get for you it really works out, but that's going to be such a pain to deal with. Mega Aggron, really the only weakness it had was its lack of recovery, in my opinion. So adding to that, it already has filter to where it can live super effective earthquakes better, but also giving it grassy terrain, man, fuck that. And also with the Vaporeon. Vaporeon, the only thing it was lacking is, it had Wish support, yeah, but, a lot of times if you run Wish, are you going to run Wish Protect, taking up another move slot? Maybe this could allow him to run something like Heal Belt more, or, just another utility move, something along that, just drive Baton Pass maybe or something, Calm Mind Baton Pass. And I say Baton Pass because he does draft Double. In this league, the only thing we're limiting is speed passing. So Double being able to set up Sword Stance and Cotton Guards both, and then Baton passing that out into Rillaboom.
Oh, I forgot about that.
I didn't even think of that.
And so one thing, I think he has a lot of great options for cleaners in the Rillaboom, just being Banded, Grassy Glide. I'd like to see something like Heavy Duty Boots on the Sharpedo. Not just to be a Gen 8 fanboy, but Sharpedo being a little frail, getting it so much more opportunity to come in and just click that, over base 120 or something like that attack stat, flip turns, crunches, liquidations, or even a special set, maybe catch an opponent off guard and still being able to bring it back into clean, still getting your speed boost. God bless. The grassy terrain for the Turtonator, I feel like is going to be a big pain because I feel like Turtonator's one of its few weaknesses was the EQ weakness or ground weakness. So covering that very nice. Adding to the overall bulk with grassy terrain and also having Drifloon, it's great for the Unburden set, but also just being able to throw off Will-O-Wisps into Strength Sap, into Hex, like that alone is going to be so annoying. The Emolga pick, I think, may seem a little weird at first, but I think it gives him an electric immunity. And looking at his team, outside of the Nidoking, which somebody could predict, electric did kind of hit a lot of the stuff in the Drifloom. Both Vaporeon, whatever the heck that shark's name, Sharpedo, and Tornadarian. The only real weakness, and he has screens in Klefki. He's done really well. He has kind of bulky water as well as aggressive water. Sharpedo's a mon that I've definitely wanted to been trying out lately, so he stole that from me. A little upset. I think that this team is going to be a pain in the ass to deal with. In all honesty, it's just going to be a pain.
I agree. And to point out, I'm liking the Drifloon pick more and more now because, it doesn't even have to be, Unburdened. It could be, you think about a flare boosted Drifloon, that could put on a lot of hurt to a lot of teams. But to go with the Unburdened set, you got things like Klefki could just fire up Prankster status, and then Drifloon comes in and cleans games with Hex, or it could just be an annoying bulky set that just whittles you down in its own right and just counters all your physical threats. And
Tornadarian in itself with heavy duty boots, it was a cleaner. It could be a cleaner before with its speed tier being 121, but now, dude, you have to have knockoffs.
Yeah.
Having Mega Aggron being able to freely come in, resist those knockoffs, and then not losing an item because it's holding the Mega Stone. Fuck.
Yeah. The momentum, the bulk, the sheer power of this team. I'm jealous.
Yeah.
I want this team.
I've definitely penciled in grassy terrain plus Mega Aggron. It's like the journal by my bed where you wake up and you're like, I gotta remember that one.
Right. I things right down that you gotta try.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to see how he does with this team. I'm scared to face it, and I hope it's not on my schedule, but I'm excited for it. All right, jumping into number 3, we have Bailey and Stealth and the Tennessee Tyranitars. You want to start us off with this one, Seth?
Sure. Well, if you guys didn't know, we aren't allowing hidden powers, so just Mega Scizor without hidden power fire is a threat. That alone is a threat. Not only that, but I really like the Garchomp pick as well. I really like teams that can do well with the 4x resist, Durant Garchomp, Mega Scizor Garchomp. Basically, before you had to force your opponents to run hidden power ice or hidden power fire. You can't run both of them. And in a league where they can't even run one of them, a lot of those coverage moves are kind of hard to fit in, if you can't put it in on the team correctly. And also packing it with something like the Slowbro, who could easily pivot into either of those. Come in, regenerate the health off. You have Thick Fat on Miltank, so very, very annoying. Swallow, I think, is going to be able to do a lot of work. A lot of people have talked about the spec set recently, or I guess heavy duty boots special with boom burst and stuff like that, and the scrappy abilities. But also guts. Flame Orb guts. You don't even have to be running like heavy duty boots, or excuse me, you don't have to be running Flame Orb. You could be running heavy duty boots, because a lot of teams are going to try to fire off Will-O-Wisps on your Mega Scizor, on your Garchomp, even your Cobalion. Trying to T-Wave or Toxic your Slowbro. So if you're able to, have boots, catch a status in, and the same with the Girder team for the Rain team. I forgot to say about that, but I like, having a status switch in mon to stuff like the Tapu Bulu or the Mega, Gen 3 Mega Swampert. Catching the Will-O-Wisp and then being able to abuse that against your opponent, I really like.
That's a good point for the last game we just covered too. I didn't even think about that, like being able to soak up burns with Driploom. Another thing.
Yeah, for sure. But I think it's really fun. I think it's going to be a really cool team. The Rotom Heat pick, Rotom Heat's just gotten so much better this generation. I really like Skuntank. Skuntank's one of those mons where it's like, I'm going to draft it if nobody does come round 8, because it always finds a way to put in work. Having Home Claws and Nasty Plot, dude. Poison and Dark is such a great typing, being immune to one of your weaknesses, and that's really awesome. So yeah, it's just a really threatening team. Really threatening team.
Yeah, I'll pick it up from there. One thing that, we put our tier list together, or we did points, and so everything was kind of, agreed upon between the server as, when we put the points list out, we had suggestions and stuff like that. But one of the forgotten, Pokemon coming into that was Tangela, and foolishly being priced at 1 point when we had a budget of 115, I believe. It might have been 110. Just fantastic value, and add into his fire weakness. But I mean, okay, so you have Tangela, Mega Scizor, and Cobalion not liking fire, but you have Garchomp, you have Rotom Heat, you have Miltank with Thick Fat, being able to take on the ice and the fire, being able to protect both the Steels and Garchomp in that regard. Slowbro, being able to slowly pivot out into something like Mega Scizor or Cobalion or Swallow or Garchomp, and just providing, opening a door for other teams to come in and just erase threats to another teammate. It's just a very threatening team, and Swallow is very threatening in its own right. I mean, another one of those mons that we hit on the last 2 teams, having something that can come in and switch on the Will-O-Wisps that are targeting, your Garchomp, Cobalion, Mega Scizor. I mean, a Guts Swallow is nothing to sneeze at. It's one of those things that could definitely steamroll. And having, Sylveon is one of the best, wish passers in the game, being able to just keep things around like Scizor or Cobalion, and just all of his threats. And Slowbro being able to just come in, take a hit, offensively or physically, and just teleport out into another threat. I have a major hard-on for Scizor in its own right, so I love this team. I love what you did with this team, Bailey, and I'm scared to play you.
Now, Bailey, your thoughts?
So pretty much, I had no real plan coming into this, and I had some people telling me, like, yeah, Scizor's really good in, like, non-legacy format. So I was like, okay, we'll take that. And then pretty much the idea that just went from there is like, okay, what if Scizor struggles with, both bulky steel types and fire types? So that's when Garchomp came about. And then at that point, I wanted to pick up that really good regenerator core. And the fact that Tangela was 1 point, it really kind of saved me in this draft, because it allowed me to, like, pick up some other things that were pretty pricey. Like late, I believe I got Cobalion in like round 9 or something.
Yeah.
So that was really cool. And I was just really overall happy with the both my Steel Dragon Fairy and Firewater Grass cores. I feel like they all complement each other really well. I was a little upset that I couldn't fit Spikes or Toxic Spikes onto this team anywhere, but it was just not in the cards this time. So, but another pick that I really liked was Miltank, just for like you guys mentioned, obviously it can eat up those ice and fire hits, as well as be a cleric to both Garchomp and Scizor, meaning that in some situations I can play a little bit more aggressively with them, and then if I get burned I can just swap out Skill Bell and just have those mons continue to be threatening.
Yeah, and I like that with Sylveon. I forgot to say that, but having another cleric on the team, Specs Hyper Voice is going to be doing a lot to a lot of mons. Or Specs Mystical Fire, or just allowing it to run Specs with maybe Baton Pass, or not even Specs, but not having to run Heal Bell on your Sylveon, allowing you one extra move. I think that makes the most out of all the clerics, in the draft, in any kind of draft format. So I like that together.
Yeah, and another thing I really wanted was a lot of pivoting, which pretty much I think Skuntank, Miltank, and Tangela are the only things that don't have some form of pivoting.
Yeah, you checked that box.
Yeah, so I'm really happy with that.
Tangela can hold the jack button.
And, I mean, having Torracat, too, it's a nice intimidator. It can fire up Lilith's Parting Shot. Yeah, it gets Parting Shot, yeah. So, I mean, it's faster than Incineroar, too.
It's going to be pretty bulky.
Yeah, definitely. It's bulky. It's going to be just as bulky as Incineroar, but it's going to be faster than it. Knock off, Parting Shot, Snarl.
Oh, I forgot it's faster.
Overheat, Lilith, yeah. It's one of those things you don't really see too much just because, Incineroar steals the spotlight, but, in Draft League, things like Incineroar and Tangela can really shine, and having the double regenerated core with Slowbro and Tangela, it's just one of those things that it'll be really nice, and they cover each other's weaknesses very well.
And that Torracat pick was kind of just, I had 2 points left, and I was like, okay, what's the best thing down here?
I think you found it.
Yeah, it's hard to beat Intimidate.
It is. All right, we'll jump into number 2. Here we have Goblin with the Highland Haxorus, and I'll let one of you guys take over after this, but I just want to say, we talked about Aegislash, Hydreigon, and Mega Gardevoir being possibly the best Dragon Steel Fairy, but looking at this one too, I mean, it's just, if it's not the best, it's second best. I mean, those two are, this one and that one are very close in my mind. Having Jirachi, Clefable, and Mega Charizard X is just, and I think you got Clefable in round 3 or 4 even. I'm not even sure. It's just fantastic value there. But yeah, I'll open it up to one of you guys.
I'll take this team really quick because I absolutely love this team. There's just a ton of different things. Mega Charizard X is honestly probably one of the best setup sweepers in the format, in my personal opinion. Like, most games you can literally just win from one Dragon Dance, and the fact that it can't be burned is huge, and I think it's a lot bigger of a fact than more people think. Just the fact that you don't have to worry about running something like a sub or something to blocking a Will-O-Wisp coming in. Mm-hmm. And plus with really good Magic Belt support with Espeon, that means that you can't really just safely paralyze it or toxic it, and that's really huge. And I really do like how he's distributed his speed tiers. He's a little bit lacking in the middling speed tiers with, I believe, Mandibuzz being like the only real true middle speed tier. Everything else is either really fast or really slow. Mm-hmm. But I really enjoy that, and I think that he's just drafted a lot of really solid mons. Like Gastrodon and Mandibuzz and Clefable all in their own right can just wall out whole teams.
For sure.
And then he's just got some really solid things like really good Choice Scarf users with things like Jirachi and Heliolisk, and a ton of offensive presence with something like a Specs Heliolisk or even Banded Weavile. And then he just has those sleeper threats that, if you don't prep for, they're going to run all over you, like a Calm Mind Clefable or even a Calm Mind Espeon. And overall, I just really enjoy this team. I think that it's just a bunch of cool picks. I'm excited to see what he does with it.
Yeah, and Clefable and Jirachi, I mean, he's got the support to your box checked. Gold Star there, Speed Tier is phenomenal. And just, I am scared to death to try and game plan for this team. Jirachi being able to run Wish, and I believe it gets Teleport too. If it doesn't, it gets U-Turn. It forces you to, kind of guess which Pokemon of those two are going to have Wish this week. They both are threatening offensively in their own right. Jirachi being able to flinch you out with Iron Head and Serene Grace. It's just, it's really wacky. I've seen a Jirachi almost win because he got 15 straight flinches. It's just one of those things, kind of like Togekiss, where you don't count on it, but I mean, Hacks is a win con. So, like Clefable, it is what it is. It's on OU. It's one of the best mons around for a good reason. It's very versatile. You can do Stored Power and Cosmic Power now. Wish, Teleport, Light Forward, Magic Guard. I mean, it can be offensive, it can be defensive, it can be supportive. It's just very versatile. And Espeon, it's an offensive threat in its own right. Calm Mind, and it's very especially bulky. It doesn't have that physical bulk, but I mean, it's fast, and it doesn't necessarily need to set up in order to be able to come in and be an effective cleaner. He's got a lot of great defensive switches into his offensive threats. Having 2 water immunities, I guess, is really nice for Charizard as well. And Heliolisk and Gastrodon. He's got a fantastic Defogger, Mandibuzz, and just that thing is bulky and it's hard to deal with. It's a good candidate to hold Heavy Duty Boots or Rocky Helmet, depending on the matchup. And I really like Eldegoss. When I was looking at my own draft, I was thinking about taking the low tier grass type before I took Rotomo, and Eldegoss and Tangela were the 2 that I was looking at. They're kind of interchangeable in my mind. Eldegoss being able to run Regenerator, it has Rapid Spin, Leech Seed, Sleep Powder, and its special attack isn't anything to scoff at either. I think he's got a good, Firewater Grass Core, Dragon Steel Fairy Core, and the other, Eldegoss also has Cotton Down as well, so it allows some of his maybe not so fast threats like Jirachi or Mega Charizard to not really have to set up a speed boosting move. Charizard's Tough Claws is plenty of power in its own right, and if you switch Eldegoss into something and just kind of pivot out into Mega Charizard X, it's just one more thing you have to worry about. And Weevil is, I love Weevil too. It's one of my favorite mons. It's very fragile, however it hits like a mother. Yeah. You still have a choice band on it. Ice Shard, Triple Axle, Knockoff.
I forgot Triple Axle, yeah.
Yeah, and there's one more that I'm thinking about too, Metal Claw. It's not the strongest move, but fairies aren't safe against Weavile. It's just,
It does get Poison Jab as well.
It does. So, yeah, a very solid draft.
Yeah. Looking at this draft, it's rough. It's an annoying team to have to deal with. Mega Charizard X on its own is always going to be a pain to prep for. I do like the Espeon pick. Having one other way to kind of deter hazards. Yeah, you have Mandibuzz and Eldegoss with Rapid Spin to be able to negate hazards. But Mega Charizard X, having to run that Mega Stone, not being able to run Heavy Duty Boots, applies a lot of pressure to it. And Weavile, I think Espeon works well with it. Again, allowing you to maybe run more Banded or Focus Sash, Sword Stance set, something like that. I like the Healing Wish support that Jirachi offers for stuff like a Mega Charizard X. We talk about Scarf Jirachi being able to win games with flinches, but also just having that Scarf Healing Wish into Mega Charizard X, being able to ignore Rock Switch in the next time you bring it in from the Healing Wish. Like, Jesus, that thing sucks. One thing that kind of stuck out to me for his team is he doesn't really have much for fire types. Yes, he does have the Mega Charizard X and the Gastrodon, but if he's running Dry Skin on Heliolisk, doing 25% more, then I get that's just an ability, but it's not a resist anyway. Weavile going to be hit super effective by it, Jirachi going to be hit super effective by it, Espeon, any kind of physical attack, it's relatively frail, Eldegoss, same with that. Mandibuzz, yeah, but Mandibuzz looks like it's going to be pressured to play a defensive role every time, and it is a Mandibuzz, so it's not like it's limited playing a defensive role, but you can only rely on so many things to check so many boxes, if that makes sense. You know, being able to roost, foul play, you just may find yourself more vulnerable to other things in the draft format. But it's going to be an annoying team. The only other thing is, like what Bailey said, not having anything in that middle speed tier. You may find that to come back to bite you. You know, teams may be running more Bolt or may get away with running more Bandits or, you know, stuff like that. But I think Goblin's really good, and I think he's going to be able to play around it. And, you know, no disrespect to Goblin, giving him a rank 6. It's just like these, you know, the whole middle of the draft I felt like was just interchangeable. So
yeah, for sure. Well, I guess by process of elimination, we know who's number 1. So I guess I'll...
That's number 1. And the whole time, I didn't slide down to peak where I was. I was just like, it's gonna come. It's gonna come.
So I guess we'll let Seth talk last, but I'll let Bailey start out with this one.
Man, this team is good. I really like Landorus. I think Lando T is honestly like top 5 in my opinion in draft format. I feel like it's often overlooked as being as good as it is, and especially in a meta similar to like what we talked about with Garchomp, where no hidden power ices or, you know, like you can just tech on an HP ice and then have something to do with Landorus. So that's a lot better for Landorus, obviously. I also really like the Zero Aura pick, and I believe you got that in the 3rd round, didn't you?
Yeah.
The fact that made it to the 3rd round, like I was considering taking Zero Aura round 1. Right?
Yeah, me too.
That blows my mind. I really like Amoonguss. I feel like it's one of those mons that haven't got anything new, so people have kind of forgotten about it and forgot how just good it is, but it's just still phenomenal. Obviously, Spore is really cool. Odd Know is the best Wish Passer in draft, like straight up. So that's going to be really cool, especially for things like Empoleon and Landorus, who obviously don't have very good reliable recovery. And then you just have a really solid Intimidate core with...
Got 3 of them.
I do.
Yeah, Arcanine, Hitmontop, and Lando T. That's going to be frustrating.
Yeah.
Bring your special hitters.
Yeah.
And I really respect the Necrozma pick. That one is just so good. Like, almost arguably better than you, in my opinion. Like, as a just kind of workhorse psychic type. Bro, I really like this draft. Like, similar to most of these other ones that have been up this high, there's no glaring weaknesses. And there's just so many different things that you can bring to just catch your opponent off guard. Like, you know, set up Necrozma or Veil. I'm a big fan of this draft.
For sure. And, I mean, to go along with, you know, just the sheer... I mean, you're not going to fear any physical attacker, honestly. I mean, having Landorus and Arcanine and Hitmontop, I mean, the one thing I could see is maybe Water types giving you an issue with that Intimidate core, but then again, you have Empoleon and you have Amoonguss. And the Regenerated core between Amoonguss and I don't know. I mean, that's going to allow you... I mean, you're basically able to just... Okay, if they bring in a threat, okay, I'll switch out to this. Or they bring this in, I'll switch out to that. I mean, there really is no drawback to you switching out to a lot of these mons. You know, having good support in Wish Pass and Aurora Veil and Alolan Ninetales. I mean, your team is... It's going to be hard to wear you down just because of the sheer just bulkiness of a lot of your attackers. Having a great speedy threat in Zero Aura, which is just a problem. And, you know, just the Regenerator, the Wish, Intimidate, Screens. It's going to be a nightmare to try and break through your team. And Necrozma, I mean, like Bailey said, it's a workhorse. I've seen it in a league where somebody picked it up and all they did is they just slapped the weakness policy every week on it. And it was predictable. Everybody knew it was coming. And it, you know, started in week 3 in a 10-week season, and it was the kill leader by a long shot. It's just getting that is late easy. I think it was like maybe your second to last or third to last pick.
Second to last.
It's often overlooked just because it's not, you know, it's not the flashy threat offensively that a lot of other Pokemon are, but Necrozma is very threatening and very scary to have to deal with. And I mean, it could be just a support, Stealth Rock version too. And a lot of I like the Hitmontop too, just for the standpoint it's got triple axle and technician boosted triple axle. You hit all three of those, it's gonna hit just the same as a V-Create from Victini. I mean, it's gonna hurt. So, and you got plenty of hazard support, and having Empoleon be able to come in and just absorb that defog and get a Defiant boost. It's gonna be, they're not gonna be able to get away with getting rid of those hazards for nothing.
And Necrozma gets Dragon Dance now.
It does.
Yeah.
Public service announcement.
Yeah, it's just good luck. I kind of look forward to potentially having to play it just to see, how I can, you're definitely gonna have to go to the think tank and invite a few friends to figure out how to beat this team.
Yeah, nobody's getting any cheesy wins.
No, not at all. It's man, well done. You executed the strat to perfection, I feel like, and I'm not just sucking up or anything like that when I say that.
Me up. It's okay.
I mean, I don't have Sucker Punch on Cinderace this season to save my butt, so.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, no, excellent job. I'm a big fan of your draft, clearly, and I think you're gonna make another deep run this season.
Yeah. Well, I'll jump into it. I mean, I drafted Landorus Therian because my first pick, I wanted a fucking bully. And I was like, Landorus Therian is a bully. That thing, whenever it comes up to games, like, it just pushes kids around, it takes their lunch money, and that's what I wanted in a first-round pick. I really wanted Aegislash because I felt like I would have some fun. I've never used it. But that was taken, like, second. That was fourth pick, so I was a little upset. I don't want to say upset that I had to get Landorus Therian, but I think I was able to work around with it. My main goal with this, one, I don't have any repeat typings. And I think that's the first time that I've ever done that. Like, I don't even have any repeat secondary typings or anything. So I was really happy for doing that. I like having Hitmontop for Rapid Spin. That way, I do have Defog on Landorus, Therian, and Empoleon. So I like also having the Rapid Spin, like you said, to get the Defiant boost with Empoleon. I really like having Veil. A lot of people shit on the Aurora Veil ones like Alola Ninetales and Vanillix, but yeah, I have a base 109 speeds here. I can get up, an Aurora Veil for 8 turns. And I will go ahead and break the fourth wall. Like, I specifically drafted Ninetales just so I don't auto lose to the raid team. And so that's why I picked that. It also helps me out. I think that I will find a lot of success if I'm able to work around with the Aurora Veil, maybe being able to bring Calm Mind Zeraora a few times. If I get Empoleon up behind Aurora Veil, you talk about weakness policy on Necrozma. You know how many things have Earthquake coverage? And especially with a team like Zeraora and Empoleon. Yeah, I do have stuff like the Landorus and the Amoonguss that can switch into it, but being able to maybe get a weakness policy agility set up behind Aurora Veil, Empoleon can run away with games in itself. I like the heavy duty boots on the Arcanine, teleport on it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I like having Spore on Amoonguss. One of the things you talked about with the Regenerator Core, whenever I get a Regenerator Core, I always like to make sure that I counter my weaknesses with them. And what I'm talking about is kind of like with that Toxapex and Slowbro or the Slowking one, they're both weak to Electric, but Aldino being weak to the Fighting type, Amoonguss, is a natural Rocky Helmet Mon, right? Being able to come in, eat those hits, resist the Fighting type attacks, get off the Spore, go for something like that. I really like that. And Aldino not worrying too much about, the Psychic or the Ice type. And also working well with something like my Empoleon, who can resist the Ice types. I'm excited to use it. I think all my Mons give me multiple things to do with them, which I'm very excited about. That Absol, that's going to put in some work this season. It has Wish, it has T-Wave, Sucker Punch, Knockoff, Stab Knockoff is very nice. It'll be fun. it'll be fun. I think I hit all my stuff that I was looking for, like a speed tier between my Landorus and my Zeraora and Alolan Ninetales. I guess also technically with Arcanine, I don't know the speed tier with Landorus 91 maybe. Yeah. And then Arcanine I think is like 95. So yeah, but Alolan Ninetales being able to outspeed those base 100 mons is really what I was looking for. You know, Landorus Therian, not to go back to it about that thing being a bully, but it has like a base 145 attack stat. So many people run Sword Stance on it. Man, what if I don't need to get to +2? If I can run Rock Polish and just outspeed, that may be all I need to wall break, or all I need to clean. So I think that I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Rock Polish on Necrozma, having Photon Geyser to hit either physical or special. Like, I'm very excited for the draft. I'm very happy that I got the rank 1. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, no, you earned it.
Yeah, very much so.
It'll be fun. It'll be fun. I think my most famed attribute right now is my fear factor, 10 out of 10.
Definitely. And so that'll do it for the Indigo Plateau Division power rankings for the Quarantine Draft League this season. Just to kind of give you guys a heads up, there are 3 free agent moves that teams are allowed to make throughout the season. So these teams may change a little
unlimited
bit.
trade between teams.
Yep. There are unlimited team-to-team trades, and we're running a 9-week season, and I believe 6 or 7 teams make playoffs. Forget 6 teams make playoffs,
yep.
And so yeah, and a lot of the coaches inside this league will be recording games and uploading them to YouTube, and we'll make sure to link them in the description below. But yeah, no, if you guys feel like following and paying attention to the Quarantine Draft League, feel free to like, subscribe, and go check out the other coaches.
Word. Alrighty. Well, peace, fellas.
All right.
See ya.
See ya.